Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. With respect to word democratic mentioned in the preamble, which of the following statements are correct? Democratic polity stipulated in the preamble is based on the doctrine of popular sovereignty. Independence of judiciary can be considered as the manifestation of the democratic character of the Indian polity. The term used in the preamble embraces political democracy and not social and economic democracy. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following words were added to the preamble by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act? Integrity, liberty, secular and socialist. The answer to this is 1, 3 and 4, which means we have integrity, secular and socialist, which was added as part of the 42nd Constitutional Amendment, but this word liberty was not introduced in the preamble with the 42nd Constitutional Amendment. Why have we taken both these practice questions? Because this article here makes a mention of the word preamble. Let us try and understand what are these options. When it comes to the first option, it says democratic polity stipulated in the preamble is based on the doctrine of popular sovereignty. What is this doctrine of popular sovereignty? Basically, the power is derived from the people. The people are the supreme authorities. They vote for their elected representatives. These representatives voice the concern of the people in the parliament and in the state legislature. So the democratic polity basically means that it is the people who hold the ultimate power. It is the people who vote for their political candidate and ultimately all the laws are drafted. So the first statement is right. When we look into the second statement, it says independence of judiciary can be considered as the manifestation of democratic character of the Indian polity. What do we mean by democratic character? If we speak about the democratic character, elections is one of the fundamentals. What is democracy? It is people voting for the political candidates. So democracy's manifestations include elections. It also includes universal adult franchise, where any person who is above 18 years of age who has the voter name included in that particular electoral roll would be able to vote for a political candidate. Then you also have periodic elections, that which happen in 5 years every now and then, and we also have the rule of law as well. We also have independence of judiciary. So remember, universal adult franchise, periodic elections, rule of law, independence of judiciary and absence of discrimination are all the aspects of democratic character of the Indian polity. Now the third statement says the term used in the preamble embraces political democracy and not social and economic democracy. This is a wrong statement. Why? When we speak about the preamble, it not only embraces the political democracy, but it also has in it social and economic democracy. What do we mean by it? When we speak about the preamble, yes, we have given the people the right to vote. They go and cast their vote in the elections. You also have periodic elections as well. All this is part of political democracy. But what you also require is social democracy, social justice in the society, economic justice in the society. If people don't have the social justice or economic empowerment, what is the use of political democracy? Yes, they are casting their vote. If they do not have economic empowerment, if social justice principles are not inclined to, social justice is not served by the political regime, and there are inherent issues in the society, in such a case, the whole idea of political democracy gets nullified. So remember, when we speak about political democracy, it also has within it social and economic democracy, which is the very foundation of the democratic polity. As a result of which, the liberty, the equality and the fraternity are treated as the trinity when it comes to this political democracy, social democracy and economic democracy. Now if you look into the second practice question, what was added in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment? We have integrity, which was added, secular, which was added, and socialist, which was added. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section there are different ways that India has adapted its constitution. We have used, let's say, for example, the fundamental rights we have imported from the United States of America. Where have we imported this concept of integrity from? Have we imported the concept of socialist from any other country? If there is, please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to private members bill. A member of the ruling dispensation who is not a minister or that of the opposition can be said to be a private member. No private members bill has been passed by parliament since 1970. Which of the above statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is none. Why? Because both the statements are correct here, but since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this would be none. Kindly remember this word, it is asking for the incorrect statement and both the statements are right, so it is none. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the private members bill. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, it says a member of the ruling dispensation who is not a minister or that of the opposition can be said to be a private member. What does this mean? Let's assume for a moment we have the government. The government also has cabinet members. It also has ministers as well. Let's say for example the Minister of Home, or let's say for example the Minister of Defense. These are the ministers who are part of the government. Then there are also people who are not ministers. Let's say for example they are members of the parliament, their political party has formed the government, but they are not ministers. Even such members of the parliament who are from a party who's formed the government but are not ministers are also called as the private members. So remember, any person who is not a minister will become a private member whether they form the government or not, whether they are in the government or in the opposition. So the first statement is right. When we look into the second statement, no private members bill has been passed by parliament since 1970. This is also the right statement. So remember, when it comes to the introduction of a private bills, it is usually introduced and discussed mostly on Friday. But when it comes to the government bills, which is introduced by the minister, it can be introduced and discussed on any day. But most of the times, when it comes to the private members bill, it is introduced and discussed only on Fridays. But there are few exceptions as well. What if there is no sitting of the house on a Friday? In that case, the speaker may also allot the stipulated time on any other day in the week for the private members business, and at the same time the speaker in consultation with the leader of the house can also allot any other day than a Friday for the transaction of private members business. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to lesser Florican, which of the following statements are correct? It is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. The bird is listed as critically endangered on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of lesser Florican. Let us try and understand what are these options. When we look into the first option, yes, it is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. So the first option is right, but the second option is wrong. That is because it is not critically endangered, but instead it is endangered. In fact, the Hindu has also given wrong information as well. The Hindu says it is critically endangered with respect to the IUCN status. Kindly make sure that it is not critically endangered, but it is endangered. Please do note that you have to check the IUCN red list every now and then, because the number of species can either increase or decrease, and there will be periodic updates with respect to the IUCN red list. Do remember, the lesser Florican is a small and a slender bird species. It is one of the smallest species in the bustard family, and it is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. National Payments Corporation of India helps in promoting the financial inclusion in the country. NPCI has launched RuPay, a card payment scheme. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is both 1 and 2. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. So what is this National Payments Corporation of India? This is an umbrella organization. What does it do? It operates retail payments and settlement systems in India, and this happens to be an initiative of the Reserve Bank of India along with Indian Banks Association. Basically, they have come together to incorporate this National Payments Corporation of India under the provisions of Payment and Settlement Systems Act of 2007. So this particular company is focused on bringing innovations in the retail payment system. They will bring greater innovations with respect to the financial inclusion schemes and programs so that every person is part of the financial inclusion process. So no person is left out of this process, and every single Indian is part of the financial inclusion schemes and programs. Under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act of 2007, they are given permission to operate immediate payment system, Aadhaar enabled payment system, National Automatic Clearing House, operation of check truncation system, affiliation of the RuPay cards, and National Financial Switch as well. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. Let us try and understand what is this act all about. What is the article trying to convey? When we speak about plant varieties, what happens? There are changes that may be introduced in a plant variety. This is what we call as plant breeding, where certain traits of the plants are changed, they are modified, unique characteristics are introduced. So you have certain section of the people or researchers who are called as breeders. What do? They introduce new traits into this particular plant. They bring changes in the characteristics of this particular plant so that this can be introduced and this can be used as part of the plant growth and development. So what we have is the breeders who bring about research and development and also introduce new type of traits to that particular plant. These plants are grown by the farmers. It is the farming community which grows these plants. What are the rights that should be given to the farmers? So the rights that should be given to the breeders who bring in plant breeding into characteristics, and you have the farming community which also grows these varieties of plants as well. So what are the rights that are accorded to the farmers? What are the rights that are accorded to the breeders? Is what is this Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. So you have two people, one engaged in the research, they bring new characteristics to the plant, and you also have farmers who grow these variety of plants. So protecting both these people, balancing the rights of the farmers and the breeders is one of the major objective of this particular legislation. So the Government of India enacted the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act back in the year 2001. What are the rights given under this? When we speak about the rights, you have the breeders' rights, you also have the farmers' rights as well. What are the breeders' rights? Breeders are the one who bring about changes when it comes to the plant structure. So they have the exclusive rights to produce this particular plant, sell, market, distribute, import or export this protected variety. Why? Because they are the ones who have come up with this particular variety. It might be a new variety or it might be small changes introduced in the existing variety. Because they have brought changes into this plant structure, what they have is all these powers accorded by the Government of India. In fact, the breeder can also appoint an agent or a licensee and may also exercise civil remedy in case of infringement of rights. Because he has invested a lot of money, in case there is infringement of rights, he can also go for the civil remedy. So these are the rights that are accorded to the breeders. Then you also have a farmer who also has rights as well. What are the rights given to the farmer? We have the researcher or the breeder who has given this particular plant, or let's say one of the variety of plant, to the farmer. So the farmer grows this and he might have entered into a contract with the breeder or the researcher, and ultimately it is the breeder who is given this particular crop or the seed to grow for the farmer. The farmer also has rights as well. What are the rights? A farmer shall be deemed to be entitled to save, use it, sow, resow, exchange, share or sell his farm produce, including seed of a variety, protected under this act, but there is a limitation to this particular usage. What is this limitation? A farmer would be able to do all of this, but he would not be able to sell this particular product because that happens to be an exclusive right of the breeder. So a farmer would be able to grow it, he would be able to reuse it, he would be able to give it to other farmer as well. But if there is this seed, he cannot create a new packaging to this particular seed, sell it as a new product to another farmer. So we have rights which are given to the breeders, we also have rights given to the farmers. What is this case all about? We have PepsiCo. PepsiCo had created one of the plant variety certificate for the potato. What happens? You have farmers from Gujarat, they had entered into contract with Pepsi. Pepsi had a variety of potato. So this variety of potato was given to the Gujarat farmers. But what happened? They had entered into a contract. So it was only few farmers who were given this particular variety. But these farmers had also supplied this variety to some other farmers who were not present in the contract. So what happens? You have PepsiCo, which says there is infringement of rights. It wants a civil remedy. It asks for payment because there is infringement of right. But the farming community goes on to say that they would be able to use, reuse and also share this particular farm produce, but it should not be in a process of reselling it as a different brand name. That is where justice was done to the farming community. This is what this article is all about. We also have one of the international conventions called as International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants. This happens to be an important convention where you have number of governments coming together and are part of this particular convention basically to protect the new varieties of plants. Is India part of this particular convention? The answer is no. India is not part of International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.